Good evening. Recently I was watching a TED Talk, and it was entitled, "The Best Gift Ever Received" by Stacey Kramer. And she said, I want you to envision a gift. It's a gift about the size of a golf ball, she says, and I want you to envision it wrapped up. She said, before we unwrap it, I want to tell you what it's going to do. It's going to do incredible things. It's going to bring family together. It will make you feel loved and appreciated. It will help you to reconnect with old friends. Adoration and admiration will overwhelm you. You will recalibrate what's most important in your life. It will redefine your sense of spirituality and faith. You'll have a new understanding of your body. You'll have an expanded vocabulary. You will meet new people. You will live a healthier lifestyle. You will eat plenty of gourmet meals. People will tell you, you look great. And you'll be challenged, inspired, motivated, and humbled. And she said the cost is $55,000. So at this point I'm thinking, I know what this is. It's a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. It has to be. That checks off all the boxes, and then some for me. And then I realized that was a dumb thought, because she said it was the size of a golf ball. And I realized then that the title is actually the best gift I ever survived. She said it's hemangioblastoma. She said it's a brain tumor. It's non-cancerous, benign, but it can cause some real problems where it's usually located in the brain. Anything that's affecting your brain is going to harm your body, and it hurts your motor movements. It can harm a lot of different things with your body. So you got to get it removed, and it's a process. And she said, while I wouldn't wish this on anybody else, I would not change what happened to me, because it made me feel all those things that I mentioned, and then some. So she said, the next time you're faced with something unexpected, unwanted, uncertain, consider it may just be a gift. So she didn't let anger consume her, and there's no doubt that she was angry at the beginning. If you find out you have hemangioblastoma, you're going to be angry, and that's okay. But what she didn't do was let that anger consume her. She might have been angry at first, I'm sure she was, but then she took the more positive route. She said, okay, instead of being angry, because that's not going to help me at all, I'm going to look at the good things that came out of this experience. She's fine now, she says, but she's going to look at the good things that came out of that experience. She's going to look back and say, I'm glad that happened to me because of this. And it reminded me of a story that we read about in 2 Samuel chapter 12, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, where Nathan confronts David. Nathan says there's a rich man and there's a poor man. And that rich man, he has plenty of cattle, sheep, everything you could possibly think of, that rich man has. And there's a poor man with one little ewe lamb. Has one little ewe lamb. And that poor man loved his ewe lamb. It was like family. It grew up with him. Ate at the table, grew up with his children. It was like how we look at dogs today. It was its pet. It was part of the family. And that rich man had a traveler going by and needed to feed that traveler, as was the custom of the day. And so he didn't want to take any of his own cattle, any of his own sheep. Instead, he took that poor man's little ewe lamb, took it, killed it, cooked it, and gave it to eat. And so David's angry. He says, tell me who this man is, because this man deserves to die. Nathan says, you are the man, David. The man that I'm speaking of is you. And now if I'm David at this moment, I'm angry at Nathan. Now I'm angry. I'm saying, what? Do you know who you're speaking to? I am your king, Nathan. But instead Nathan goes on. Nathan goes on and he says, God came to me and he said that this is you who I am describing, that you took Bathsheba, who wasn't yours. God gave you everything. You have everything that you could possibly imagine. And God said that if that were not enough, then I would have given you more. But you took Bathsheba. That wasn't yours. And you killed Uriah. David, you are the man. And so David doesn't get angry at this. No, it's not what we read about. Instead, after Nathan continues to talk a little bit more. He says, so God said that because of your sins, the child that is born to you by Bathsheba will surely die. And that's stress. That's stressful to hear. Your child is going to die. So David is not speaking. He's not eating. This goes on for a week. And his servants are feeling bad for him. They see him going about like this. He's not doing anything. And they feel bad. And the child then dies 7 days later. And the servants kind of gather together and they say, we can't tell David this. Look at how he's been the past week while the child was yet alive. Now look at him. Now think about him. If we tell him that the child is dead, he might do himself some harm. But David overhears them speaking. And David approaches them and says, is my child dead? Nod their heads. Your child's dead. David says, okay. Gets up. Cleans himself up from the past week of doing nothing, goes and worships God and eats. And so the servants are confused at this point. David, what are you doing? Over the past week, you weren't doing anything, and that was why your child was alive. Now we tell you your child's dead and you're okay? What are you doing? What's going on? And David said, you don't understand, because while my child was alive, I was doing everything in my power. I was hoping, praying, fasting that the child might live. But now that hasn't worked. And so I've got to move on and worship God regardless, because it was my sins. David takes the blame. You read Psalm chapter 53. David takes the blame on himself. He's upset at himself, but he doesn't take it out in anger. And while I'm sure there was some point, again, that there was anger, maybe there wasn't, but in understanding that he's still a human, there was probably some anger that he was having to deal with. But he didn't let that consume him. In these stressful situations, you do not let the anger consume you. You will be angry sometimes. And that's okay. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 26 says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. I'm sure Stacey Kramer was angry, and I'm sure David was angry. But it's what we do with our anger that matters. Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 10 says, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous man runs into and is safe. Don't run anywhere but to the Lord, because that's where you find comfort, relief, and refuge. You choose what to do with your anger, but there's Solomon's way, the wisest man to have ever lived, and there's our rash, impatient way that will almost always end in destruction, in sin. And the choice is yours. And so tonight, if you have found that you struggle with your anger, and you need prayers to do better so that you may run to the Lord for refuge and not lean on yourself to figure out the tough situations. He has blessed us with a direct communication with him through prayer, and all you have to do is ask for help, and he is there. But of course we read in James chapter 5 and verse 16 that the prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. And so if you need prayers, then please ask. So if tonight you haven't been baptized, then you can come forward and be washed away from your sins in accordance with Acts chapter 2 and verse 38. And if you need anything, then please come while we stand and while we sing.